We just heard how former athletes feel about the media and its coverage of Ray Rice. So now let's look at it from the reporter side and ask, are sports journalists too soft on the leagues they cover? Or to put it another way, how did TMZ obtain the elevator video but not ESPN? Because here's the thing, anytime the NFL is the story, the network's coverage of the story is very closely watched. Because ESPN, CBS, NBC, and Fox all have multi-billion-dollar contracts to carry NFL games. So their news divisions have to cover the news, but their parent companies have to protect their investments in football. Two experts are here to help us sort out all these conflicts. First, here in Washington with me, Christine Brennan, a longtime sports columnist for USA Today and a commentator for ABC News. She interviewed NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell earlier this week. And in New York, Gary Belsky, the former editor-in-chief of ESPN The Magazine and ESPNinsider.com. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Let me start with you here, Christine. There's a lot of blame to go around here. Does some of it fall on sports reporters? Is there a measure of culpability?
Certainly. Are we doing the best we can do? Are we trying to find, as you mentioned, that video? TMZ was leading the way on several other stories, including Tiger Woods. Why is that? I think,
and in the Donald Sterling story earlier this year, and people can say it's because TMZ pays for the audio tape, it's because TMZ pays for the videotape. Harvey Levin would say all networks pay for content, we just pay for different kinds of content.
Yeah, although the traditional print journalists, including USA Today, we don't pay, of course. So that might, I think that those who are completely independent, as say a USA Today or a network that's not involved with a team in paying rights fees, I know we try, I know we care. I know at USA Today, we certainly aren't trying to cover anything up or go soft on anybody. So I can speak to that, and Washington Post before that. But no, it's a valid question. I think often you find that sports journalists are still fans or are so wanting to get the story, like in the golf community with Tiger Woods, that they'll almost do anything to back off on Tiger Woods because they so want to be, getting the chance to talk to him.
Gary, tell us about that journalist-subject relationship. Is it just different for some reason in sports?
I think it is different, but I think there's a few factors that play into why it is that sports journalism often seems like it's behind on serious stories. First of all, it's not always behind. Peter Keating at ESPN exposed the Donald Sterling issue about 8 years ago in a fantastic and long, in-depth piece. I think it probably got lost a little bit in all of the ESPN words and images that get out there. But the bigger issue is that sports journalists are human beings, and they're compromised by a sort of a quartet of issues. The first one is that everybody wants sports to succeed. They're also, as Christine said, worried a lot about access. So even the most aggressive sports reporters are sometimes temper themselves because they want to keep talking to athletes. There's also the mythology problem, right? The people who are in sports journalism are generally fans, as Christine mentioned, and they want to believe, again, probably non-consciously, no matter how cynical they are, they want to believe that sports is what we all want it to be, which is this sort of athletes as Olympians in the big O sense who are kind of pursuing this physical ideal. And the final issue is expertise. And by that I mean sports journalists are often trained to cover sports as games, as competitions. When the subjects start to become serious, they're not qualified to talk about or to even investigate a lot of the issues that are raised in something like the Rice case.
Do you think some of that happened this week? I mean, I saw a lot of great sports journalism this week, but do you feel that some of the folks weren't qualified to be talking about these issues?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I saw a lot of sports journalists who know a great deal about personnel moves and X's and O's and offensive schemes, talking about psychology and domestic abuse and crime. And let's be honest, they don't know very much about that. They're not trained, nor should they be.
And of course, maybe one of the responses to that would be they work for big networks that also have legal reporters and others who can do some of that. But Christine, let me turn to you and ask about what I mentioned in the beginning about the network contracts with these leagues, not just the NFL, but the NFL is probably the biggest of them all. Is that inherently a conflict? How should viewers perceive news coverage, for example, from CBS when they also broadcast Thursday Night Football?
One of the worst I ever saw was during the Masters with the controversy of no women members back in 2003, Brian. And that was an example where CBS News basically ignored the story. It was roiling the nation. Whether there were no women, Hootie, Martha, everyone remembers this, I'm sure. And CBS Sports treated it as a golf tournament, and I don't recall CBS.
This week, a very different case, wasn't it?
Exactly. Norah O'Donnell got the video, the TV interview, and I had the print interview.
And yet people wondered, did Norah O'Donnell get that interview because of the relationship that CBS has with the league.
And of course, I have no idea. I know how I got it, which was by asking and emailing and emailing and emailing, and finally...
And both of you asked basically prosecutorial questions, ones that have been very important now because now we see, potentially contradictions in his story.
Well, absolutely, and you put it out there, and that's what you do. Going back to your original question, though, I think here we are. This is where we are. I mean, this is not going to change ESPN having rights fees, people paying networks or paying the leagues, and then also trying to cover the leagues.
And ESPN, for example, said to me, we have a church and state approach when it comes to this. Some would disagree with that. There's been controversies about ESPN and how tough they've been covering football concussions, for example. Sorry, Gary, go ahead.
Oh, for, about 8 years, I was in the highest level editorial meetings at ESPN, and I have zero stake in the company now. They don't pay me. I have very little to do with them.
Right.
I can tell you, not once were we ever discussing a serious journalistic investigative issue. Not once was there ever a consideration of not approaching it or not doing it. Many times I presented stories to the people who were in charge of the relationships with the leagues to let them know what we were doing, and every single time all I got back was, good story, thanks for the heads up.
And I was struck on CBS on Thursday night at the very first night of Thursday Night Football on the network that Scott Pelley took over for a few minutes, did a news update about the scandal, and then handed over to James Brown. Let me play a bite from James Brown because he spoke at length about domestic violence. Here's a clip of it.
According to domestic violence experts, more than 3 women per day lose their lives at the hands of their partners. So this is yet another call to men to stand up and take responsibility for their thoughts, their words, their deeds, and as Dion says, to give help or to get help, because our silence is deafening and deadly.
So there's JB talking about it on Thursday. Was that as tough as he could have been? It was a pretty dramatic statement to me.
Yeah, I think so. And it's a powerful statement because he is so associated with the National Football League and his coverage of it. And of course, he's a man. And of course, this is the kind of thing. What I love about a story like this, as horrible as it is that sports once again leads us to a national conversation on an issue, whether it's Penn State and that awful story, whether it's steroids in sports, whatever it is. And here's another example. So as horrible, as bad, as reprehensible as the circumstances, we have the chance to have this national conversation, and JB was certainly leading that conversation on Thursday night.
I'm glad you mentioned Penn State because it was Sarah Ganem at the local paper who really revealed what happened there. She now happens to work for CNN here. It was none of the big networks or institutions with business ties to Penn State that broke that story. And maybe that just speaks to the idea that we live in a media ecosystem where there are insiders and outsiders, and that we're going to always have both. To your point about ESPN, it's not as if they're not going to have these billion-dollar contracts in the future. They always will. So it's about having outsiders as well as insiders both covering these beats.
Oh, I think so. And the bottom line is there are young journalists out there that are being pumped out of schools today that so want to break these stories. I'm not at all concerned about that. I just think that when you get close to a team and a league and have been around too much, it's almost like every sports editor should switch beats because anyone who gets too comfortable, and I've seen it on all my years of covering sports, it's just time to break that up and make everybody uncomfortable again. They'll do better journalism.
Well, at the New York Times where I used to work, I was on the TV beat for 6 years, but people oftentimes move around after 5 or 6 years for that reason, to try a new beat. Gary Belsky and Christine Brennan, thanks both for being here this morning.
Thank you.
My pleasure.